So hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, and of course, just as you know, my name is Ayo Emmanuel-Ojo, and of course I do a lot of things here. I do documentary. Documentary is one thing that I'm very passionate about, and that's one of the things that I will be sharing more on this YouTube channel. Just as you know, you'll be seeing more of my voiceover works, the video version. You'll be seeing more of lifestyle, things that are very personal to me. You'll be seeing more of educational materials, basically too, because I'm also very passionate about education. Now, this year, 2020, is a big year when it comes to the history of Nigeria, because on the 15th of January 2020 makes it exactly 50 years after the civil war in Nigeria. So I caught up with, I do not want to say war veteran, but of course at the time when the war happened, this man that you will be listening to, his own true life story, was just a child at that particular time. All right, so I just want you to stay right here. It's a audio interview, right? But I want you to stay glued to your phone. If you need to download it offline to listen, you just need to listen, because this is something really deep and dear to our great nation. This is the first part. Watch out for the part 2 of that particular conversation. Enjoy it. Okay, so a lot has been said about the Biafran War, and on this particular series, we're looking at surviving the Biafran War. And I know that quite a number of people that experienced the Biafran War, we still have a lot of them around, even though most of them are now so quiet about the Biafran War. And we are left with a few things that General Achebe left with us, a few stories that Chimamanda also read, probably from her father, and a few other people that care to share with their children. And so on this particular episode, I would like us to look at the history, not just the history in black and white, but the history from the perspective of someone who experienced the war. And so that is why I have my guest in the studio today, Chukwuemeka Munachiso, someone you all know, but it will interest you that he also has his own share of that particular war. Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for bringing me into the studio.
Okay.
To share my experience about the Nigeria-Biafra Civil War, the war that could have been avoided, but it happened.
Okay, now let's take it from this particular. I've read a lot of things and I've seen a lot of video, but of course, having you around, I'm going to have the first-hand information. I've been also opportune to listen to the version of Professor Patutomi, because he also experienced the war, and from his own experience, he was at Christ the King College, Onitsha, at the time when the war broke out. Where did the war meet you? How did the war meet you, and how did you respond to the war?
I was born and brought up in Aguleri, in a town called Otuacha, in Anambra West local government of Anambra State. I was in that town as a young boy. We didn't know what was brewing, but all we saw was that the aeroplane was just coming from nowhere, dropping bombs on schools, in marketplaces, in churches, and people were running helter-skelter. I remember a day, as one of the market days, my mother came home with a very small girl. We were asking her what happened. They said a aeroplane came to the market and dropped the bomb and killed the mother of that child. And the girl was standing beside the mother crying, not knowing that the mother was dead. So as my mother was running, she carried that girl and brought that girl to our house. That girl grew up with us. It was a period of national madness. It was a carnage. It was a real bloodbath, because ordinary civilians were massacred. You know, even in churches, it became so difficult for people to go to church. You know, so I saw everything through the eyes of a young boy, but I knew that something was happening, because we were no longer going to school. You know, and we stayed in that condition. So when Otuacha fell, there was a problem in that part of the east. I had to trek to my hometown with my parents, just like walking about 70 miles. A small boy walking. And
let me pause you a little. I'm actually getting a little more interested. But you saw this from the angle of a small boy.
Yes.
Can you recall if there was any kind of information that some bombs would be dropping, or you just woke up one day and things just started happening?
No, we've been hearing it over the radio about the political crisis of that period, but we never knew it would come to
that extent.
And when it happened, you know. When I mean a small boy, it doesn't mean I was a toddler.
Okay. Because like what age are you?
I was around 8 years.
Wow. 8 years. 8 years is not so small.
Yes, and we participated at our own level. How did we participate? We participated in such a way that every young boy or young girl of that age were drafted into scavenging for metals. all over Biafra. Like you have scavengers in Nigeria today. We were scavenging for nails, broken bottles, every metal. We carry all of them. We didn't know what they were doing with it. We go to mission churches and drop them. We ask everybody, because there was no school. Everywhere we see broken bottle, nail, pan, everything, we pack all of them.
What do you intend to do with this?
The soldiers were coming to carry them with their truck. It was eventually we knew that they were using it to produce Obunigwe.
What's that? What
Obunigwe was as a mass killer.
Okay.
That Biafran soldiers fabricated. They fire it, anything in front is dead. And they used it so much against the Nigerian soldiers. It really saved Biafra a lot. But we were the children bringing all those metals. We never knew what they were using it for until later, as we were told, that they were using these things to produce a lot of arms and ammunition in Biafra. Biafra did a lot of things, and we had the people that were in the age bracket of 15 were used as rangers. The rangers mean that they will send them behind the enemy lines. They will give them rags. These children will go to the enemy lines, those guys with heart, because you must be properly as a trained before they send you on this mission. When Nigerian soldiers see them, the geography of that place, they will know the movement of these soldiers, where they kept all the things they have and everything. In the night, these guys will sneak back to Biafran soldiers and give information. And before you know it, Nigerian soldiers will be routed.
Okay, let's take it this way. Now, the Biafran War is basically a war between the Biafran soldiers and the Nigerian soldiers. Why? What was the basis of this particular war? What exactly caused this war?
Well, I remember vividly as a child, they were bringing in trailer loads of Igbos from the north, trailer loads of human beings. I saw some without head, some without arms, some without eyes, completely dead.
Like in broad daylight?
Broad daylight, they were bringing them from the north. I didn't hear that they brought anybody from the southwest. They were bringing them from Kanu, they were bringing them from Zaria, they were bringing them from Sokoto, they were bringing from all over the north. They say these people were massacred by the Hausas. And it was that thing that galvanized the people. You understand? And when the war was declared, every Biafran saw it as a war of survival.
That means a war of defending your territory.
Yes,
defending your people.
Defending people from being annihilated, because it was a genocide. If that war was fought today, Gowon would be up for a war crime, because Gowon was not fighting Biafran soldiers, he was fighting civilians. Because bombs were dropping in marketplaces, bombs were dropping in churches, in schools, which if you do today, they will take you to international court for trial. You understand? But that time, as a child, I saw it. In school, bombs were dropping. In marketplaces, bombs were dropping. It came at a point where if you go to any Biafran market, they will use green leaves and cover all the things. Because when the aeroplane comes, you will look at it, you will think it's the bush. They will pass. You understand? So that's how Biafra prevented complete massacre of innocent civilians, because these people were... I said, there was a day I was in a market, vividly I looked up. The man in the aircraft was a white man. It was a white man. And the people that were shooting, they were ladies. Eventually we discovered they were Egyptians, because Egyptians were recruited by Nigeria to fight that war. You understand? So it was a war that... I wrote a book concerning it. Don't call me Zuma. You understand? Because I wrote it through the eye of a child. What I saw as a child. I was innocent. I didn't know anything.
I'm looking at the real intention here. Was the intention just to wipe out the Igbo tribe away from the north? Was it just they just woke up and they just wanted to achieve this, or something came up between the two tribes?
Something came up in Nigeria. I think it was a coup that happened. Then the north, the Nzoguku and everything. They felt that they killed all their people. Igbos were not killed, but definitely it was not ordinary people. If it was going to, and they went to Abuja. You hear Aburi Accord. They went to Abuja to sign an agreement that let there be a confederation. You understand? Let there be a confederation. I think they signed, Gowon agreed. So when they came back here, a lot of people interpreted the thing to Gowon, he didn't agree again. And that was where the war started. And the Igbos were really massacred. And that's why if you go to Anambra State now, a lot of families have not survived that war. Till today, 50 years after, a lot of families have not survived. And there's a particular town in the east, Anambra, where they don't allow their people to live in the north. If you die there, there'll be no burial for you. So that thing is still there. You understand? And I don't think that war was justified, because 3 million Igbos as went for it. And till today, Nigeria has won the war, but they have not survived the peace.
You said something that as a child, you saw trailer load of people returned from the north. Their bodies.
Dead bodies.
Why do you think that particular thing played out? When people die in a place, sometimes you want to bury them there. Is this bringing them back home lifeless? Is this an intentional way of trying to spur
something in the minds of their people back at home? Because I feel they should have been buried in the places where they killed them.
No, we have a tradition in Igbo land. You don't bury people outside. We don't. Igbo man will not be buried outside. Except on a rare occasion, like if you are in America or London, the cost of bringing you home. But definitely you die in Nigeria, you must go back home. Because your people will ask questions. We give our people decent burial. We don't bury people, even a child, they will take that corpse home so that people will see it, and they will bury him in a central land. So these corpses were brought down home. And I saw it as a child, and my humanity died a bit. Because I was asking, how come you see a pregnant woman, they ripped her womb up? You see everything. In fact, something died in us as children then. And when that war started, let me tell you something, if the war had gone beyond 1970, people like us would have joined in the real war.
You know, that's where I'm going. You said at the time you were about 8 years,
Yes.
and you said children of about 15 years at the time.
12.
So that 12, 15. So that means at that time you were not up to that age.
No, I wasn't.
But so the children that joined the military or the Biafran soldiers, what's the recruitment process like? They went to their parents, or they took them by force from their parents to fight for their territory or to fight for their people?
The first bulk of Biafran soldiers came from University of Nigeria and Nsukka.
That means undergraduate in
Undergraduates,
school at
many
the
of them,
time.
23, 20, 19, many of them came. And they had this passion because we saw the corpses, we saw the humiliation, we saw the massacre, and they were ready to die for Biafra. And believe you me, that was why, as this man, the poet, Christopher Kibo, he died at Nsukka as a war front. He left everything. He celebrated as a poet in Africa. He went to that war. What propelled him to go to war? Because it was a war of, if you don't go, you will die. Because this thing, there was a blockade all over. And many Biafrans suffered. Many Biafran women went to war as well. But that story will not be told. Many Biafran women, they were eager to go and fight. There were a lot of songs that were... In fact, that was when I saw the real meaning of patriotism. I don't think there's any Nigerian that's patriotic. We saw patriotism. Nobody cared where you are coming from or anything. What mattered then was to defend the fatherland. And many people went into that war. Many young men went into that war. The people that earlier went to the war, they were really trained. But the people that went, when the war became so hot, they were poorly trained.
You know, children of your age at that time, let's say you said you were about 8, children of your age, when your senior ones went to war, what were the children of your age doing back at home? What was the security like? What was the assurance of life? What was the future looking like for children of your age at the time?
When our elder ones, as we went to war, don't forget, I told you that we are being prepared also. We have what we call boys camping. Boys camping. We do it because we had Biafra 1, Biafra 2. We are divided into so many. So the children of my age, we have been prepared. As we are taught how to take cover, how to run into a bunker. They carved wooden guns and gave to us. Do you know that if you put your ear on the ground, you can hear the footsteps of somebody as a miles away? They taught us that. And they taught us how to take cover when the aircraft is up. If he meets you suddenly, we were told to stand still, that the pilot will think you are a tree. So at times you come to a place, as once the siren blows, everybody on the street will stand still. Nobody will shake. The plane will just be making all the noise, nobody will shake. We were taught. And we are taught how to dive into a bunker. We are taught how to place our head on the ground because they will tell you the range the bullet will fly. So they gave us all those trainings. I hope it was the preparatory to us going into the real combat if the thing escalates. But we are taught so many things. A lot of children, as we went to war, and many of them that survived.
You know, I'm still picking your experience because this is a different angle to me now. It's different from what I've read in books. Now, you said at the time you saw an aircraft and you saw a white man in it.
Yes.
What came to your mind? Did
my
you
mind?
think that was your last day on earth?
No. It was not because we've seen deaths so many places.
So
it didn't mean anything.
you didn't care?
No. We didn't mean anything to us. There was a day we were in a house somewhere. A mortar entered. He blew up as a one man. His ribs, I saw the ribs. The blood was gushing. The head was running somewhere else because they cut off the head. All of us were there. The only thing we did was to leave. The others came and carried the man away. You understand? When I saw that man up in the aircraft, a white man, and later, because many mercenaries were captured at Otocha by Biafran soldiers, there was a day they captured 2 men, hefty, very tall. They said they were Russians. And that was my first time of seeing bearded, fully bearded. They were reddish in color. They were not really white. They said they were as a Russians. They were mercenaries. And they paraded them. The Biafran soldiers will carry them in a jeep, open jeep. And they took them around the whole town. If some people will flog them. Some people, if you have pin, you can pin them. So if you have razor blade, they cut them. It was a torture. They paraded them and later they took them to their barracks. We don't know what became of those men. But what I remembered again was that Otuacha, there was a time they brought two tall, lanky men. They say they were Chadians. Nigeria used a lot of mercenaries. They were shooting these people at a close range. They didn't die. One young Biafran soldier just went and tied a red cloth on top of his gun. I saw it as a child. And he carried sand and put inside the nozzle of the gun and shot the man. He blew him to pieces. Everybody just went.